welcome back to SFeatleyTV, SFeatleyF1, sorry. And we're doing a special, Chequered flag show because obviously Sebastian Vettel is announced to retire from Aston Martin, and we're going to have Alonso replaced him. We're going to talk a bit about that as well. We're going to talk about Oscar Piastri's situation as well. I'd like to welcome Wajid. How you doing, my friend?
I'm alright, mate. Thank you very much for having me. First time on your channel, so thank you very much for having me.
No worries. Yeah. So I'm gonna ask yourself. I mean, are you surprised by Vettel's announcement to retire?
A bit, because from all sort of talks we were hearing, um, it sounded like talks between Aston Martin and Seb were going fairly positively. I believe there's still a driver. I believe there's still a driver in there, and it's going to be a shame to not have him on the grid. That being said, I think everyone's now seen the Instagram post where he explained his reasons. And do you know what? The man is a family. The man is a family man. He's been doing this since he was 19 when he came on the grid with BMW Sauber, and all the way with Toro Rosso, Red Bull, Ferrari. He's been in the sport best part of nearly 20 years, so I can also see why he's chosen it. But the grid will be, in my opinion, a worse off place without Sebastian Vettel.
Yeah, I hear that completely because I mean, four-time world champion. People can see, like, can say, like it was with Red Bull, it was with Adrian Newey, and the stuff like that. It still takes 4 titles to win. And don't forget, like the first of those, and actually 2 of those, he had to fight a very long title battle with Alonso. The 2010 one was with Alonso. I think it was Webber and Hamilton as well.
Yeah,
So
I mean, people genuinely seem to forget how good of a driver Seb was. Obviously, people see the mistakes he was making at Ferrari, the Ferrari butchering, and at Aston Martin. But at the end of 2013, he'd won his 4th straight world title at the Buddha Speedway in India, and people were talking like this man was going to. There was genuine talks that this man was going to break Michael Schumacher's record. That's how good set in the 2010 title. He did not lead the entire way until the last race, where obviously before DRS and Alonso couldn't get past Vitali Petrov, stuff like that. But I think people genuinely forget how much he dominated in that Red Bull, those other 3 world titles. He blew Mark Webber, who is a very quick driver. I put the whole multi-21 everything aside. He blew Mark Webber off the park, and up until the turbo hybrid era, he was getting the same amount of help as hate as Lewis was. People questioning his driving. It's just the car, blah blah blah. But people were looking at Sebastian Vettel going, when is this man? It's only a matter of when he breaks Michael Schumacher's record. It wasn't if. Obviously, history has played out the way it has played out. But Seb was untouchable. And to be honest, that 2010 win is probably the most impressive win, because you had 5 genuine drivers who could have won the world title. Because Jensen, who was at McLaren at the time, he wasn't in at the last race. You could argue Lewis needed a lot of luck to win it, but he was still in it. But there was a genuine 5-way scrap.
Well, even Vettel was sort of written off. As much as he got pole, he needed Alonso to finish way down in.
Yeah, he needed Alonso. So, he needed Alonso in 7th. I think he needed Webber in 5th.
Anyway. Yeah. So the odds were stacked against him as well. So he go in and said, "Look, I've just got to win the race, and it's up to them to what they do." and that's the whole thing. I think it also played out in the fact that 2010 title, it played out the way it did is because Alonso thought, like, I just got to copy what Webber does. If I copy what Webber does, I'll win.
Yeah.
Like, so that because thinking that Vettel's so far behind in the championship, thought, oh, if I copy Webber, I don't follow him home, I'm fine. I'm cool. Right? And then realizing when they got stuck behind, and he could actually, do you know what? He could actually thank his mate. Like, he can actually thank his mate Michael Schumacher, right, who were mates at the time, because if it weren't for his turn right on accident, right, those pits, those drivers that like Petrov,
Webber,
Kobayashi,
yeah, they
and
don't
all the
pay.
others in front, they would not have pitted.
Yeah,
They were not pitted and put the hard tyres on, which meant they could go to the end. And then obviously it meant that those drivers that are on the soft tyre, they'd have to do a pit stop gap before they'd have to because the Bridgestones were just like indestructible back then. Like, they last all race, so it's not like the Pirellis you have now. So, but in this anyway, it's just it played out the way it did because Vettel was probably very underestimated by the two favourites at the time. So that's probably why they did a different strategy to Vettel, same with Hamilton, and like yeah. So and then afterwards, 2011, he literally, I think he was the only one who went to Pirelli to actually like see how these new tyres were about.
yeah,
And I think that gave him such an advantage into that season of how to use them. He
yeah,
was the only one who was, I think, in Q2, he prepared a set of tyres, and it was the only driver preparing a set of tyres for qualifying three,
yeah.
right? Because he understood about how to use them. So, yeah, so it's he, like you said, he was at the top of his game at that point, and obviously it took a major change in the regulations and a big catch like Red Bull to be severely catched out by what, like how bad Renault, because it was pretty much down to Renault. They had a good car. It was just the fact the Renault engine was shit.
Yeah,
Right?
pretty much.
And unfortunately, he got most of the unreliability. But again, like he went to Ferrari, immediately won his second race with Ferrari, and I think he won 3 races that season as well. Kind of like what Schumacher did in his first season at Ferrari as well. So, and I
In
think
a
I said
car,
that,
in a car that no one expected him to win in because of how dominant the Mercs were when
yeah,
they
they're usually about a
when they
second quicker in the
yeah,
race.
when they rolled into when the Mercs rolled into Bahrain that year and they just literally stomped away. The Ferrari had no right to be. The Ferrari had sort of no right to be where
I
it
think it
was
was
when.
Malaysia, wasn't it? The
Yeah,
second race
well,
thing
yeah,
because they had to open up their cooling, whereas Ferrari had a very good cooling package already. It meant that Mercedes couldn't be as quick as they were, right, during the Grand Prix, and
yeah.
the fact that they had a a special suspension system, which meant they could use one set of less tires. So, um, but it's
And Seb was the only non-Merc driver to win in
yeah,
in that year as well. So the man was good. The man was very good, and he did have his chance. Obviously, the big one being 2018, where Ferrari did have the fastest car. We all know
throughout
the
the
mistake.
season.
Yeah, we all know the mistake he made in Hockenheim, where he put it into the wall, and that seemed to sort of just mentally play with him. But unfortunately, that was also the early signs of the Ferrari strategy, the Ferrari strategy as well, which obviously this season has totally come to light. Um,
Yeah, I mean, look, I would just say, I mean, that's 2018. Like I keep I've mentioned so many things before because everyone keeps saying that. Like, let's say Hamilton now, like, oh yeah, he had such a good car for so long, right? He's always had the best car, blah 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 blah. Same thing they said about Vettel as well. Well, 2018 they didn't have a fast car at all. Like it was kind of like a diva as they described it. Right, they didn't win till about 4 races in. They did have Twitter dominant, but then most of the time, um, for most of that season, especially from the German Grand Prix to about Russia, Ferrari were dominant. Ferrari were dominant, and they had the faster package. Like in Hungary, the only reason they won, Mercedes won in Hungary because of the wet in qualifying. So Belgium, like as much as Hamilton got pole by the nearest limits and margins, we knew Vettel was going to do him by the time he got to turn. By the time he got to end of Prix, by down the Camel Straight, and because of the engine, which we then found out was cheating. Which, to be fair, if they did actually win that title, it would probably meant Mercedes would probably launch a protest next season saying, "Hang on, they've been cheating for about a year." But yeah, like you said, that mistake in Hockenheim, which was caused by Hamilton putting on those prime tires of it, like obviously it had to take that mistake for him to win the Grand Prix, like, but which was again one of the best drives I've ever seen Lewis do. But I mean, it was a good Titanic strap. But what I liked about it, compared to the last season and how I hated last season about it, Vettel had every respect for every rival he had, right? Every single rival he had. Okay, you could say about Multi 21, but he's still a young driver at that point. But the thing is that as soon as he knew Mercedes was going to win the title, right, he went to the back of Mercedes where he's not even supposed to go to say, well done, right? Well done winning the title. When Hamilton won his fifth one, he wasn't bitter or twisted like Max was in Saudi Arabia pissing off because he's been done for like brake testing someone, right, and just walks off the podium, right? He stands there and actually says, "Look, well done. We're like, congratulations." He's always the first one. And remember when Hamilton won his seventh one? Immediately, he's the first driver to say, like, "Well done. I'm so honoured to be on the circuit with you." Like, to see that happen. So that's what I've always loved about Vettel and that rivalry between Lewis and Vettel, and that's why Hamilton, I think, came out and straight away said he's one of the greatest drivers and legends that the sport has ever seen.
I think also they've both set history together with one another. It was both of them racing to the. It was the quest of the first one to 5 was between both of them. They've both gone through periods where they've dominated.
Think about it. Apart from Rosberg, no one had won in the 2010s. Apart from them two.
Exactly. There we go.
that's an extraordinary stat.
Yeah, exactly. And then everyone, and then even with the Rosberg one, everyone could talk about Malaysia and blah blah blah. And we.
Oh, mate, I was I was depressed. Like, I was depressed.
Everyone can get into all that, but that speaks volumes as to one, how dominant both of them two have been, but also two, just how good Seb was. Like, the man has won 53 races. You do not win 53 races by being
the second highest, isn't it?
I think no. I think it's third highest. Yeah, because Schumacher's
third highest, because Schumacher's on 91, isn't he?
191, yeah. So like you don't win that many races by being slow or by not being up to speed, and he would do the same as Lewis did in those early series. When Lewis stuck it on pole, not sort of last year, but the years previously, when Lewis Hamilton stuck it on pole, there has been an inevitability that unless someone throws it down the inside of turn one, this man is going. And that's what Seb used to do. He used to put it on pole, and unless he got into an incident or someone got a better start and sent it down turn one, the man was gone. There's the famous interview with that Nicky Lauda had with Sky Sports.
Do you remember Singapore? I think it was 2013.
That's exactly what
Singapore
was. Yeah,
2013.
it's the famous.
He won it in the pit lane.
Yeah, and the famous interview with Nicky Lauda, where people go, "Is it boring because Seb dominates? Why do people hate Seb?" And Nicky Lauda turned around and go, "The reason people hate him is because he's this good. It is for the teams to catch up to Sebastian Vettel. It is for the team." And do you know what? He's absolutely right.
This is exact thing, and this is what I've said about, I see it so many times with Lewis now, right? I see so much hatred towards him, and I'm like, what is your actual hatred towards him? They've got no actual evidence, anything. They come up with some stupid crap that's not even true, right? That's not even true or proven, right? And it's quite well stated it's not true. And they said, look, your actual hatred is because you just don't want to see him win every single time, which is fine. You don't have to want to enjoy him every win, but it's not his fault that everyone else is shit. Right? It's not his fault that everyone else has got a shit car. Right? It's not Mercedes' fault that Red Bull are not as good. It's down to Red Bull to compete, right? It's down to Red Bull to come up with innovation to be able to compete, right? And because they couldn't, they then bitch and moan or protest and this. Oh, I'm not going to get into last year's because that was just. I try and stay away from that because it just winds me up. It just winds me up all the time because the amount of bitchery that was going on compared to maybe say what was going on in 2017 and 2018, where it was just an honest fight between two major works teams. That was more like, oh yeah, but he's done that, he's done this, and yeah, Mercedes were like that as well. But it was always he's done that, he's done this, he's done that, he's done this, he's done that, he's done this, and people would rather just see an honest championship battle throughout the whole thing. Like Alonso and Schumacher, for example, in 06. People were happy to just see an honest battle between a legend and someone who was a current legend.
Yeah.
Right? So it's I mean and here's the thing as well, and what I liked about it as well, in terms of Schumacher, is when Mick came into the sport, Vettel literally took him under his wing. He literally took him under his wing and said, I remember when they got him to drive his father's Jordan, and he'd come down and spend time with him, and give him all this advice, and he said, "Yes, you're in a Haas, mate. All you're supposed to do at the minute is just beat your teammate. That's all you got to do, because no one's expecting you to be in the points every single to try and do the unthinkable.
Yeah.
Right? If your father was there, he'd say the same thing. Right? And obviously we send our best to Michael and that as well. So, but because if Michael was fully fit, the wisdom that kid would get is unreal. Right? And it was really sad when I watched this. Do you know what? When I watched the Schumacher documentary, or the film about it, it really did make me upset about how Mick would just sacrifice everything just to have that with his dad.
You mean the Netflix documentary?
Yeah, the Netflix film. Yeah, that really got to us because I was a Schumacher fan growing up before I became a Hamilton fan. So that was a major shock seeing what happened there. So, but it's a measure of the man to be able to just see that he can use his influence and his wisdom to help others in the sport. And
Yeah.
other drivers said it's not just Mick; he's also helped him out
Yeah.
as well. So it's the guy, and that's why everyone else has said he's just a genuine guy that we'll miss, and we just hope we see him in the paddock. So,
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure.
are
I'm
you?
I'm sure if Nico Rosberg can end up on Sky Sports, Seb will be there in a couple of months' time after he's taken and all that.
Oh,
So
please, at least I'll be. I can bear having Vettel there. Like, I can bear having Vettel there. Les Rosberg just saying, like, sucking up to Hamilton all the time. For God's sake, like, I'm sorry, he was bitching about him all the time when he was teammates, and then all of a sudden he's up his ass.
yeah, well,
Like,
but I do. I mean, not to. I do understand. I do understand that in the sense that because Mark Webber's come out and said that his relationship with Seb is a lot better, that they're no
yeah,
longer teammates and stuff. When you're competing with someone for a world
yeah,
title, you do get a lot. You do get lost into that. Yeah, you might be
mm,
friends growing up, but it is the pinnacle of motorsport. It is a world championship. So I will defend Rosberg in that aspect, that when you're away from the tension, the heat, and the drama,
yeah.
you can take a step away.
As long as he's like not in Austria with a Mercedes. So. I'll say no more. I might get in trouble. But look, I mean, uh, obviously Alonso's going to go in and replace him now at Aston Martin. And are you shocked by that, or are you surprised that
I don't think
he's
Fernando
gone?
Alonso. I don't think Fernando Alonso should be on a grid anymore. I think
Oh
he's.
wow!
I think he's taking up a spot, and he's not that. He's not that. He's not that guy anymore. He's never. I think. I
I
think.
think he's doing it for the fun of it. To be fair, I don't think he's
Yeah,
doing it for.
but he's taking some. But he's taking up someone's spot. At least when.
Yeah,
At least
I
with,
see your point.
Kimmy was still Kimmy's last season. Kimmy had checked out. Kimmy knew he wasn't going to be there anymore. But even when he was in that Ferrari, he was still on the podium fairly consistently. Yeah, he wasn't the same pace and stuff. But with this season, Fernando's had two really quick moments. Australia where he binned it. Australia when the car went.
Mm.
And I can't think of the other one off the top of my head.
I think the only highlight he's probably had is when he defended Hamilton in Hungary last year.
I mean, I know he. I mean,
He's
he
a
did
git.
get.
He's a git for that.
No, because he got the podium in Qatar as well,
Yeah.
didn't he?
Oh yeah,
So
part of the guitar podium as well, where you could also say like, hey, there was probably a lot more failures in terms of the tires with other drivers. Plus, also you could also say that there were mistakes in qualifying. Max not slowing under yellows, Bottas not slowing under yellows.
but Max
Uh,
still finished. Max still finished second in Qatar, though, didn't he?
oh yeah, well, we were expecting Max when he was going to finish second in that race. I was always
Yeah, but
expecting.
you still can't take it away from him. But my point being
Yeah,
is,
I know that. I'm not taking it away from him. I'm just saying there's other little circumstances
yeah,
with him. But
but I mean, this year he's genuinely been slower than Ocon. There was
Ocon's gone on leaps and bounds, hasn't he,
there
from that
was
from that win?
there was obviously the infamous Alonso train in Monaco this year.
Mm,
Even in Hungary, there was no sort of fighting. The only person he seemed to have a problem with was Ocon. No one else. Like he's genuinely not quick. He's not
yeah.
that driver of 2012, 2013. I think he's taken up someone's spot. To be honest, I think Piastri should have been in that seat
It's
last year.
yeah. To be fair, like um he's not taking it. I mean, it's nice. Obviously, it's nice to see that. Like, I still think he helps Ocon in certain ways off behind the scenes, like off track, because obviously the amount of wisdom and like he has. But I think you're right. Like his pace has significantly dropped on circuit. He's not the same driver he was. I mean, like 2012, let's not forget that Ferrari should never have been in a title race at all. Like, let's be honest, if McLaren actually played it right, Vettel wouldn't have had that title anyway. Like if McLaren actually stopped making mistakes and stopped having so many unreliability problems, Hamilton would have won that championship at a cruise, right, with the car they had. But there you go. That's the whole. That's the nature of Formula One. You've got to stay on top of your game. So, look, I mean, I think, yeah, I make you right. I think over the last season or two, it's just not been the same sort of outstanding, like always forward. Like for example, into like his 2006 like championships. Whenever he pulled off the grid, he'd go forward. He'd not go backwards. He'd be always finding forward. Now it's all of a sudden it's you're struggling to see him gain any positions off the start. And it's natural. As you get older, you get slower, right? But that's where you need to just be honest with yourself. Is like, can you still do this? And I think he's just probably not being honest with himself. And he's just not being the honest guy saying, look, I can't do this anymore. I can give you so much advice and maybe you should be more of a consultant, maybe, to help Alpine or Aston Martin, right? Because I don't think he'll be just. I think Lance Stroll will probably be quicker than him next season, right? To be honest.
I think Lance Stroll's total shit anyway, but that's just me.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, Lance Stroll ain't getting out of that seat, like unless his dad actually lets it. That literally has the fucking pissed up with him, like gives up with him, and like he ain't getting out of that seat. But that's probably the most securest seat in Formula One. Well, yeah, you could probably say like even Lewis's seat is not that secure.
I'd probably say the more secure seat is Max's, to be honest.
Well, yeah, but like I said, but it's like you said. Like I said, I don't think the guy is the right. I think he needs to be more of a consultant, bit like how Schumacher was with Ferrari in 2009.
Right? I think. Look, he wants the Triple Crown. If you want to keep on racing, that's absolutely fine.
I don't think he's quick enough for that.
And maybe he's not, but he's not quick enough for Formula One. If you want to try your hand at IRL or endurance racing, go do that. Formula One's not for you. Formula One's not for you anymore.
Well, like, IndyCar and F1 are like seconds slower than each other. So
I think he's better off trying his hand at that. And see you later. Thanks. It's been fun. You had your sort of little renaissance. You got your podium. Well done. Now just go ahead and do one sort of thing, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah. Well, it leads on to obviously about what happened with Oscar Piastri. Oh, fuck, you know. Well, I don't think Piastri would be taking his seat. If he was going to take it, it's definitely not going to happen now. Like, fucking hell, this is like a freaking Carry On movie, is it? Like he's here, he's not. He's here, he's not. He's coming, he's not. He's coming, he's not. Like, what are Alpine playing at? Like, if they know he's his test driver or their reserve driver, they know he's extreme. So, like, why ruin the chance of trying to see if they can replace him right for next season by coming out with some stupid statement saying we've already signed him when he had made no agreement whatsoever? It makes no sense.
Well, quite clearly, Alpine thinking within their contract, they must have some. They believe they have something within their contract that means Oscar Piastri will be there. Either that or they have Alonso's put him into a situation. They've then tried to strong arm Piastri, and Piastri's gone, no chance, because obviously his manager is Mark Webber. clearly they've had talks with a team that have gone very, very well. The open secret is that it is McLaren. And
Do you think Daniel Ricciardo might be on the off then?
yep, I think,
Wow.
I
We'll go
think
on to
that,
that in a minute.
I think, well, if the rumors are true and Piastri's got a seat at McLaren, then I just think Danny Rick should just take the Alpine seat back because him and McLaren have just not worked for whatever reason. But that's by the by. But yeah, I said last season Piastri deserved a seat. He couldn't get a seat for whatever reason. So if he has a seat lined up, and quite clearly he thinks he does, then Alpine just look even more stupid than they did before.
I will go back to that I just missed out on Vettel as well, and another reason why he probably left. But I'll get to that in, later on towards the end. So obviously, I'm gonna read something that this is from GP blog. So this is something I found on Twitter. So I just noticed that Zach Brown has promised other drivers the same. McLaren and Alpine are fighting for Oxford Piastri. There is no room for Mexican IndyCar driver Patricio Award and McLaren protege to come in and take the seat. Right, so it's clearly a fight between the two drivers or two teams about who they want. Yeah. And it's depending on where, like, it's not just like, I'm sure if Piastri doesn't go, for example, into an F1 seat, I think you probably might look at other formulas, like Formula E, for example.
I don't think he'll go. I think he'll go to IRL before he goes to Formula E. I have said, rightly or wrongly, I have said that Formula E is like the graveyard for Formula One drivers. Once you end up in Formula E, you're not coming back to Formula One, and I think
It's a
that's
shame about Nick de Vries because I think Nick de Vries would have been quality in F1.
yeah, but he was circumstances, opportunities. Russell got the Williams seat. He didn't. He ended up in Formula E. Russell ends up in the Williams seat. Like it's just how things play out.
What do you make of Formula E?
Just for whatever reason, I just don't think it's there. I just don't think it's there. I think as a driver who comes up the junior formulas, if you don't end up in Formula One, go to
think
IndyCar.
as a sport, as a formula itself.
But I don't find it interesting. Like
Yeah.
it's on BBC Channel 4 here in the UK. I have no interest. I have no interest in watching it.
I mean, I did some of the battles I find on there. I think are quite interesting. I'm quite. I mean, I was open the idea when I first watched it, and that was back when they had to use two cars to complete a race distance. But now you can use one car. And
I don't. I see things. You talk to the wrong person, because Jenny, I don't understand the rules.
Yeah,
I don't understand how sports work, and like
here's one thing I do. Look, here's one thing I do agree with, right? And it does relate to the F1, right? Now, whenever someone wins the F1 world title, we won't see him pick up the championship trophy, for example, right? That'll be a prize giving gala, and we'll be lucky to see if someone locks some privateer like who manages not to get the video restricted, be able to upload it on YouTube as a running thing, right? So we can actually get them to see him lift the trophy, right? Whereas in Formula E, if you win it, the top three of the championship go up on the podium after the race winner, which is what I've always wanted to see F1 wanted to do. I've always wanted to see after the last race, and they've done the top three for that last race. They do the top three for the championship, so we get to see him lift the trophy and get to see the constructor lift the constructor's trophy. if you want to do a prize giving gala afterwards, fine. But let the fans get to see, let the fans get to see them earn, lift what they've been so longing for, and see their reaction to getting that trophy.
Everything's down to money. The
Yeah,
FIA,
of course.
the FIA pay for Formula 1, Formula 2, Formula 3, the World Endurance, the World Rally.
I was invited to one of those galas actually, because the funny thing is that it was one last wish I had to be granted, from a charity. So they grant us it was I think it was the 2010 one, so I probably wouldn't have enjoyed it because someone lost the title. But obviously because of the severe cold and the icy conditions, they cancelled it.
Yeah.
So, and obviously wasn't well enough the year after that. So what they did was 2012 they did the British Grand Prix for us instead. So I got a better deal out of it, probably. To be honest, I know. Halfway through the race, I sort of said I needed to go home because I wasn't well enough even at that point to do the whole Grand Prix. It wasn't obviously Hamilton's dominant time at Silverstone yet, but it was still it was not a bad weekend actually, because Friday we spent all day in the Johnston Button Trust Suite. They gave us separate passes to get in the paddock on Friday. To get in the paddock on a Friday. They said they had 2 or 3 passes, but it turns out they're 5, so we could have took my sister with us as well. So it's a bit disappointed about that. But luckily, because they got the passes as well, we walked down the paddock, and after the second practice session, Hamilton had come out of the pit lanes, and that was the one time I got a seat, so which was kind of lucky in a sense.
Definitely.
And one time when he came out the pits, it was literally my mum grabbed me by the scruff of her neck and just threw us for the crowd, just get through the crowd, get through there now. So yeah, but anyway, the other thing I wanted to mention about Vettel is that one of the issues that he wanted to, as much as it about being his family that he's missing, and obviously you miss most of the season. I remember having David Croft on here, and that was it wasn't on this channel. It was on the when it was back on SFeatleyTV.
Yeah.
And he said it's so much time away from your family, and it's only going to get worse. There's apparently more races planned in USA. There's more races planned to extend the calendar further. And I've actually said this in previous Checker Flag show. Perez came out and said about a couple of months ago that if the championship keeps extending, there'll be drivers that just won't do it. They'll just stop. They'll quit over it.
I don't think so.
It's getting too much. For example,
I don't think so. I don't.
You sure? Because for example, that Ricardo is like you were saying. I'll talk about a bit Ricardo as well. He had to stay in isolation in not Abu Dhabi, but in Australia as soon as he got back through the door.
But that's because
Christmas.
Yeah, but Australia's rules were also the strictest in the world as well, which is also a massive difference. Australia only came out of any sort of lockdown January of this year, because obviously there was the whole thing with Novak Djokovic, the Australian Open, him not being vaccinated and people having lockdowns. So there is that. Drivers can talk all they want, but as a driver, your job is much easier than the mechanics that are there week in, week out. I feel more sorry for the mechanics who are that far away from their families for 25 races. I'm sorry. The same stance I'll have on the drivers is the same stance I have with footballers, with the likes of Harry Kane last year, where people say, "Oh, you should feel sorry for Harry Kane. You have a contract. You're getting paid millions and millions of pounds for anyone to be in that position. If it extends to 25 races, I get it. You're away from your family, but you're essentially being paid to race incredibly high performance cars, which is every child's dream." I feel a lot sorry for the mechanics who have to pack the vans, roll
Lorry
with the van,
drivers.
the lorry drivers get there early Thursday morning, set up the garages, set the cars up. If a
For
driver
example,
crack,
for example, my dad was a long distance lorry driver himself, and I don't get to see him on the weekend. He'd be away all week working
and
on pallet lines,
and you know that,
and
and you know that's exactly from your own first hand experience. Like as a mechanic, what you're probably away if you're not in and out. Say you're in on most of the calendar. So I think I think Dave, Dave from Magpie F1, he was saying that he knows someone Aston Martin who's away for 16 races. So that's about so you're away for 16. You're away for 16 weeks. Some 18 weeks away. It's a long time to be away from your family. You
yeah,
know, and those are and they're
it's like I
silly and
said,
they're
I've only
silly
got
hours.
we. I mean, obviously, my dad's no longer here, but like at those times,
We'll
you only
rest the
get the
rest of the stuff.
ah. Let's just put it that way. He didn't do himself any favors in the end. So, but yeah, obviously, like I think the one thing I did watch with him, I think was the Italian Grand Prix towards the end. So, where Hamilton won it in 2018. So, and actually, to be fair, like the season, the weekend he won his title. It was my dad passed away on the Thursday before that, so it was kind of little something there. Plus, also we beat Spurs that weekend as well. So that's probably top of the weekend. Top
Okay,
weekend
okay.
that was. That was exactly what I needed. Uh, that was beautiful because I was like I couldn't go to the Spurs game like thinking after that week thinking like Dad don't lose this game please.
Of course, yeah.
But look, I mean, obviously, um, but it's like I said, is that we only got to, like Saturday and Sunday would pretty much be the only time you get to see us and spend time with us, and but away like usually away all week, you'd be away all week and that, and um, uh, it was only like very rarely would you be able to get a chance to be like home if he was only doing a local job. So if he
Yeah.
was doing something that happened to be local at the time. So, but like I remember we went and visited the Midland Garage in 2006, which obviously used to be Jordan, which now Aston
Yeah.
Martin.
That's the man.
But and I've seen the new pit complex they're building, their new base complex they're building. It's a massive facility that they're building there now. But if no one knows where that is, that's at Silverstone. Um, Literally, you turn you turn left for Silverstone, you turn right for their bit complex. You might as well just drive the car over there. Build the car in the base and just drive it over there. Only go around and roundabout. So, but yeah, we like I made a visit there, and you saw the trucks there, and just the sort of life that you would have as a long distance light driver. It's great if you're probably single and you're flying around the world, but if you've got family and commitments, which most of these people have, and they've got mortgages and stuff like that, it's tough. It's tough. For example, like David Croft is probably this is the only chance to get a holiday, like during the summer, and then they're back on it all season long, and they're even back. Probably the media are probably back earlier than most because they've got to prepare for the next race coming up. So,
Yeah.
which obviously, if you know, is Belgium,
Belgium.
which will be, I
In two
think
weeks
it's
time. 2 weeks time.
2 weeks time, I believe it, isn't it? So yeah. But yeah, and then it will be the Dutch Grand Prix, then the Italian Grand Prix, and then Singapore's back as well. So uh, Daniel Ricciardo, you mentioned him earlier. Um, well, how do you see that situation with Daniel Ricciardo? Because there's been a lot of talks about him thinking about he was going to quit this season But
I don't think Danny Rick's gonna quit. If
I
Alonso
don't.
can still, if Alonso can still take a drive, then Danny Rick can still take a drive. Do I
No,
think?
the reason the thing I was going to say is that like I think he wouldn't have quitted this season, but I think but he's made it quite clear if he doesn't get like sort of back towards the front soon, then he's made it quite clear he doesn't want to be just racing just to not be competing for wins and stuff. So
But what's it? What?
I think next season he wants to race Vegas. This is probably why I said he was going to stay another season.
But aside from the one win on Monza, what's he done to justify a front seat anywhere? At his
That's a
time in
good
McLaren.
point. That's a very good point.
At his time in McLaren.
Lando Norris has been at the shoulders above him.
Yeah, and everyone gave him the excuse last year. New car, doesn't know how the brakes is. Blah blah blah. What's
Yeah,
this year? What's this year's excuse?
that's exactly the point. And I mean, Lando Norris, if the rain held off for a few more laps, it would have been it would have been a win in Russia for Lando Norris, and there would be levels on that. So but if you can see throughout the whole F1 fans, they're pretty sensible, and you can see Lando Norris is just head and shoulders above him. And it's a shame because again, Ricardo, I think when he decided he had to leave. I'm not ever going in for leaving Red Bull. He had to go. He knew he had to leave Red Bull. He knew that team was not him anymore. He knew that team was always going to back Max Verstappen. After what happened in Baku, they tried to. It's like what happened after what happened in 2010 with Webber and Vettel in Turkey. Webber made it quite. He can make it look quite obvious that they were looking to blame more Webber than Vettel for that incident, whether they're both equal to blame, right? Same with the Baku incident, right? But they lent more to Ricardo rather than Max because Max was the special that was their special kid that they bought for even from Formula 3. They didn't get to do Formula 2. He just came straight from Formula 3 and that's why he started so young. So but yeah, so he knew after what happened in that incident, he had to leave Red Bull.
Right? I think you're wrong. I think you suck it up, you deal with it. You're in a car that's at the front. Who gives a shit? Who gives a shit? Look, at the end of the day, Fernando Alonso is a prime example like this. He burnt every single bridge at McLaren, because they didn't back him the same way. They didn't back him. He was the world champion. Blah blah blah. Look at Fernando's decision since
what happened
then.
at Hungary?
McLaren,
2007.
Yeah, but that's besides the point. The point I was trying to make was the point I was trying to make was the he went from McLaren to Renault, burned the bridge at McLaren. It was at Renault a season or two, got the Ferrari seat, was at Ferrari at a time where the car wasn't where it needed to be. Fine, fair enough. Burned the bridge at Ferrari, gone back to. I think he went back to Renault. I believe. To McLaren. Sorry, right. But we burned the bridge up. The car wasn't good enough. The car was shit. Went to Renault.
He was going to take a sabbatical. He went after 2018. He said he'd take a sabbatical to see if, and then he said, "I'll come back if the car's good enough."
Yeah, right. So, if you look at Fernando's decisions, Fernando after his world championship car, after his world championship win, he's not made the greatest decisions in the world. Now, if I'm Danny Rick, I'm in arguably at the time the second best car on the grid on his day, maybe the first, maybe on the right circumstances, the best car on the track. Do I really care that they're favoring Max Verstappen when I know I can get
Beat
wins,
him.
get poles, beat him on his day? And it's let's not like Danny Rick wasn't slow at Red Bull. He knew the system. He knew the car. The downforce was to his liking. Yeah, they may have, and I don't think because. And the other thing is that because Danny Rick came through the Red Bull system, I don't think Red Bull would have designed cars that leaned so heavily to Max Verstappen's driving style because they would have had two drivers that were more than good enough to compete for a world title. People forget in People forget Christian Horner had an interview in Danny Rick's last season at Red Bull where he goes, "Who would you like to see from your two drivers to win the world title?" He said he wanted to hear world champion Daniel Ricciardo. Yeah, I think it's less about Red Bull and Christian Horner, and it's more about Helmut Marko's love obsession with Max and
Mm.
everything like that. But if I'm Danny Rick, I don't leave Red Bull. Give me the year. Let me see how the year goes. Then I'll decide from there. He has made awful decisions to this point to end up where he is, and you reap the seeds you sow.
No,
That
when he left to Renault, like after a season or two, to then go to McLaren, that was like, well, you just left Red Bull. What like you've not even had a stint at Renault to see if it's actually you're a part of this, supposed to be part of this project of them going forward. Like, and don't forget me wrong, like he was having a go at Renault for the fact that his car was cursed, like he said after Mexico, because of the Renault engine, right? And then you decided to go leave Red Bull to join Renault, the team that you gave you so much unreliability in your own car. Like, that made no sense to me anyway. But like, I was like, fine, if you want to do that, do that. But
and
like, you,
there's the interview Christian Horner had where he says, for all intents and purposes, we had a deal agreed. Daniel phoned me. He goes, "I'm going to Renault," and he goes, "You're taking the piss, right?" Because who who leaves the world? I don't care what circumstance. I don't care what circumstances I am in personally, right? I do not care if I am in the Mercedes garage. Everything's been back to Lewis. People at Mercs don't like me. I am seeing out my entire contract, right? And you are bringing someone in after my contract is finished to get me out of a race winning seat. And I think he
can
should
I
just step up and deal with it.
can I just do you think that something like this with Ricardo, or maybe even something like this further on with Alonso, would have happened if uh, Hamilton didn't do what he did with McLaren? Because when he left McLaren to Mercedes, right? Obviously, like that. Obviously, when 2014 rules came out, it's clear to see Mercedes has said, "Look, we've got this down the pipeline. That's going to put us. I don't know about everyone else, but it's going to leave us well ahead, like, of everyone else, right, with these new rules." So he could see like the project that was there, right, and plus he had a talking to with Nicky Lauda, right, as well, which was he said it was a major influence. But right, everyone said at the time, even I said it when the contract came out, 60 million, whatever it was, the money that was talked about that McLaren could even match. I was thinking, what are you doing? Like, you're going for money. You're not doing it for success. Like, even I had my doubts. Like, I said that I didn't think it was going to work. Right, because by that point they won one Grand Prix, they had one pole position in Shanghai, they had one pole position that was then chalked off by what happened with Schumacher in Spain, the race before, right? So yeah, you're replacing the seven-time world champion, but what is actually in the Mercedes thing that's going to actually make you compete? Because they've spent 3 years as a major team, as a works team, and they've done fuck all. they've done fuck all. They came from a world championship drawn car and have done fuck all with it. So what makes you think that they're going to all of a sudden just turn gold? But obviously, he proved everyone wrong, and obviously that Hamilton being the driver he is could take also that like he's. And this is where I still set. This is where I still compare him to Senna and Schumacher, and you can compare him to that because if you saw throughout time, like Mercedes would struggle in Monaco and street circuits. By 2019, they weren't even struggling on street circuits anymore, right? Because they developed the car, they developed the package, and that's something that both Schumacher have been able to do with Ferrari, Senna have been able to do with McLaren. But the reason Hamilton took longer to do it with Mercedes is because you have less test time. You don't get the amount of testing time that Schumacher had back in the time. I mean, Schumacher could go back to Maranello and test to his heart's content, right, to find development, right, and that's why Mercedes has taken so long this year to even compete up the front because you don't get the testing time anymore, so or the wind tunnel time. But like, I mean, I'm going on, but what I'm saying is that do you think that these decisions by other drivers are being made because they saw what Hamilton did with Mercedes and they think I can make this work with another team. I'm good enough.
No, I don't. I just think Danny Rick thought he saw the writing on the wall with the way Red Bull were going, and he wasn't. He felt he wasn't going to get equal treatment, and he was a number one driver. And Alonso just likes burning bridges wherever he goes. I don't think people at the end of the day with Lewis, you know, there is you can say all that, but there is also the element of luck that Lewis
Yeah.
ended up where he did because if Schumacher doesn't retire, then Schumacher's still in that seat, isn't he? For the hat,
If he didn't retire in 2006, Raikkonen would have still been at McLaren.
and then so there's all the sort of outside. I just think Danny Rick's made poor decisions, and
And to be fair, you could thank Montezemolo for that because Montezemolo said he wanted Raikkonen in. He wanted he said Michael's got to go now. He's got to go now. And people say, and I think it's like someone said in a Rossborn said, I think in the F1 documentary they did about Schumacher that he could have stayed another season and won it again, but Michael said he got tired and had enough. I also think that Martin Demolo made it quite clear he wanted Raikkonen in the car. He didn't want Raikkonen in McLaren anymore. More. He wanted him at Ferrari. He wanted him as the replacement for Schumacher, and Schumacher's now got to step aside. Uh, and that's how I think that they saw that for me. Whereas, and obviously that opened the door for Hamilton. Uh, and obviously Hamilton made his own luck. I mean, like one of the two tests after, I'd say China, after the Chinese Grand Prix. Obviously Pedro De La Rosa was there. They could have quite easily maybe even stopped with Pedro De La Rosa if they really wanted to.
yeah,
But they saw
they were never going to give De La Rosa the
no,
seat.
but I think one of the quotes that Pedro De La Rosa said came from those two tests. He said he looked at the timing screens from Hamilton's test in that McLaren and he went, "Oh shit, like this guy's good." So obviously, if you're fast enough, you're old enough. So it's then down to the mental side of how can you cope to the mental side of Formula One at that age uh, and obviously that people still say like, well, yeah, if it weren't for Mercedes, Hamilton would have been that good. But I still think he would have still been able to compete and maybe even won titles, even if he weren't at Mercedes. Because don't forget when he first joined at McLaren, he's only 20. He's 20. He's 22, 21, right? And people were talking about him in 2012, like he'd been there for about 10, 12 years, and he'd only been there for 4 years, right? So, and it's just because he was shafted. Unlike most teams where they start at the back, like Alonso, he'd start at Minardi, he'd go to Renault, he'd build up a team at Renault, and then they'll move up to a bigger team maybe in the future, right? Same with like Raikkonen at Sauber. Hamilton went straight into McLaren. He went straight into a front running team. So that's why everyone expected him, even in 2008. Everyone was talking about him like he'd been there for 5 years. He only been there for a season. Like last season was rookie season. He probably should have won that. So it's it, but I've I think with Ricardo is that I don't think I just don't get some of the choices he's made. I don't get why, if you were complaining about an unreliable engine, you then go to the works team that made the engine, right? I didn't get that. And then from there, you then go to McLaren, uh, and yeah, okay, McLaren didn't have the right. You're saying McLaren didn't have. You had to take a year to settle down at McLaren. Fine. Then what's the problem this year, right? And what's the problem like next year if you don't perform then? I mean, in the end, the same rules apply to everyone. The same what everyone gets. Like everyone's in this new, like everyone could say about this year, saying he might not adapt to this year's car, but yeah, but everyone's not adapting to this year's car. They're all completely different. Like they're all completely different to what they were before. So like it's yeah, it yeah. What Ricardo's done in terms of his decision making baffles me. It baffles me.
And there we go. So, you know,
But there you go. I mean, but yeah, I think like we said before though, one thing we will be very sorry for is the fact we won't get to see uh Vettel on the grid, uh, especially if you've got Alonso there as well. So on the grid. So, but I think probably Alonso should have been the one that's stepping down. To be honest, uh, but there you go. Um, yeah, is there anything else you wanted to touch on?
no, I'm just waiting for the season. Like I said, just 2 weeks till Spa. Can't wait. We
Yeah,
will.
man.
I'm very interested to see um, what what the new testing does with the underfloors for the supposed flexi floors with Ferrari and Red Bull, and let's just uh, let's just see how the second half of the season goes, and how many races left in the season Max Verstappen wraps up the world title.
Oh, great. I'm 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 hoping for a Ferrari revival. Yes.
I
Right,
mean,
Leclerc's gonna have a revival and
I
win.
mean, people can like him or love him, but like him or loathe him. But this season, yeah, Ferrari haven't helped, but Max has been incredibly consistent.
Yeah.
Has been the driver to beat, and 20 last year aside, you know, got
I want
handed
to
the
ask. I
got
want to
handed the
ask
title.
you.
Sorry, it got handed the
Sorry.
title and all that. But if Max wins the world title this year, Max
Oh
fully
yeah,
deserves to win the world
if
title.
he wins it this time, it's definitely earned. I'm not gonna deny that. I I ain't not gonna deny that for sure. But I'll ask you: does it make sense at all that for Red Bull to spend the most, right, out of both Mercedes and Red Bull last season, right? How they've been able to spend all of their um, expenditure this season, uh, and be able to develop the car and expenditure this season. Uh, is, does it make like with everyone else having to say they had to save money for and making sure they have like not overspending last season to next season. Like say even Mercedes had to at some point as well, right? Does it make does it make sense that Red Bull can have spent just as much as they wanted last season and now spend as much as they wanted this season?
I don't know enough on the subject to comment on it. I'd have to sort of read what's been
It
said,
doesn't
and
make sense to me. It really doesn't.
I'd have to read what's been said or anything to have an opinion. I mean, obviously, if that's what's happened, then something needs to be looked at. But
Well,
like but again, just to play devil's advocate again, there's pictures of Flavio, Toto, and Stefano on a boat somewhere in Italy doing the rounds. Toto inviting. So all that politicking and all that, it works both
yeah.
ways. Like I said,
Well,
I'm gonna have to see what's been said and the spending to like give you a proper opinion, mate.
yeah. I mean, yeah. I'd have to have another look at it, but um, because it looks a bit dodgy to me. But I mean, I don't get what Christian is saying. If you're saying you don't want to change the technical directive in terms of porpoising, right? Because it's down to teams, which I can hear his point. If Mercedes are struggling more than most than other teams, then it's down to them to sort it out, right? But you can't change it. You can't say you don't want to change that rule, but you want to change the budget cap rule, right? Because you spent all your money this year, right, and you're not going to probably have enough money to spend next year, for the last races this year, um, because other teams have been able to keep set a money aside in case of emergencies, like the cost of inflation, right? So if other teams can do it, why can't you? So it's,
Like I said, I'm gonna have to sort of read what's been
mm,
said and the spending and stuff to give you an opinion. But hopefully, next time I'm on here, I can give you a better opinion. But no, I just want to say thank you very much for having me on here today. Really appreciate
nah,
it.
no worries, man. We're gonna leave it there like, anyway. But like I said, it's a shame we'll miss Vettel on the grid next year. But I hope we'll see him in the paddock and probably see him on Sky at some point. You never know. He
Definitely.
might next minute it'll be Vettel commentary. You know,
Might
like
be him,
it's
might be him and Crofty in the skybox.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, Martin Bundle's getting to that age, isn't he?
He is indeed.
But at least he's been at least Bundle's been a better commentator than he was probably a driver.
Yeah, probably, probably.
That was probably a cheap shot, but there you go. But there you go. Yeah. Thanks for coming on, mate.
No,
Really
thank you
do
for having me.
appreciate it.
No, I really
Uh,
thank you very much for having me.
no, no worries. Uh, yeah. Everyone, please do. Where can they find you?
My
Everyone.
Instagram handle, Burnout Travel. So I do most of the time. As you've sort of experienced, I'm traveling the world. So yeah, so just follow me there. And if I'm not on there, I'm on Munzi's channel at Munzi on Munzi Talks on a Monday for the Formula One review show. But that's it, really. Aside from that, fairly quiet.
Wicked. No worries. Make sure you go and follow him, and check out his travels around the world. Uh, I've trust me. If I win the lottery, I'm traveling around the world. I'm trying to every single Grand Prix.
Well, hopefully,
Like,
I'm trying to get to Sao Paulo in time for the Brazilian Grand Prix, but just my
oh
timings.
yeah,
My timings aren't working at the minute because I'm going to be in South America at the same time. But
I've been
hopefully,
to Belgium a couple of times, so I've always considered going back for one more time.
yeah,
But unfortunately, where I wanted to stay is about an hour and a half from Spa,
yeah,
because the worst at the last two times was my great uncle died on the first day of the
mm,
Somme.
so
So
to that.
um, we stayed. We stayed at Ypres.
Yeah,
Uh, the little hotel we stood there, the gardens. which had a massive pond area. The pond area was actually man-made because the trenches would go along. The trench
Right.
system went along in the gardens,
Yeah.
right? And that pond was where we dug around the Germans
Yeah.
and blew them up in the sky with a mine. So it's literally history, like literally
There.
you think
There.
there in is. So it's and then obviously we went down south to Teat Val to see the Teat Val more and more great uncle's names engraved on. So
That's really cool. That.
it's really cool, though. Yeah. So we
But
did
yeah,
that. We've done Passchendaele. We've done Waterloo as well. Because obviously we love doing a bit about beating the French. So, so like typical Brit. But there you go. Yeah. So I'd love to go back and I think it'd be a bit far to stay from trying to get to Spa, but you never know. But
never know. Maybe one day. Maybe
yeah.
one day. But no.
I'd love to if I'm going to go to Belgium. I just want to sit on the Rouge, just to see what like the actual views like,
Yeah.
right? Because that
No.
would just be
I was
mad.
a bit, hopefully it's not raining when you go.
Yeah, yeah. I'm hoping it's not. Jesus, I'm hoping it stays dry this time.
So
Like,
yeah,
well, how do you think they'll do? Like, what do you think they should do if ever something like that happens again?
cancel.
Before you go.
Run the race on Monday. Forget all the logistics, sponsors, anything like that. You run the race on Monday.
Yeah, to be fair, I mean the Dutch Grand Prix is not exactly that far away, is it? So,
Exactly. You run the race on Monday just like they do in NASCAR and IndyCar. It might piss people off, but you run the race. At least you get a race.
but that's the thing, and that's probably why people saying why is it then like especially with the Grand Prix like this is that why are you doing it like and then you've got a Grand Prix literally next week, which then puts pressure on decisions about whether you should run a race or not. So
Because unfortunately, money makes the world go around, and
it's
that's
either
why.
that or you. Yeah, I'd see either that or just cancel the race and refund the fans.
Yeah, but I mean, the fans are having fun trying to chase the refunds from last year, aren't they? So
I know that I think Mercedes offered refunds for I don't know.
it's a disgrace, though.
Yeah, it is. It is. I do
Yeah.
agree on that. But
Ho-
anyway,
hopefully, if you do a preview show, I'd love to be on your preview show for Belgium. But yeah, no, thank you very much for having me.
yeah,
Hopefully,
yeah, I'll definitely get you back for that. Don't worry about that.
yeah,
We'll
no,
pre.
it's been fun. Hopefully, I'm on here a lot more. And
Yeah,
thank you very much.
absolutely, absolutely. I'm more than welcome to. And yeah, guys, make sure to follow him and follow Monty Talks as well, because it's quite fun on a Monday. But especially when there's controversy as well.
Yeah, always.
But there you go. Right, just don't mention United. Like, let's just not mention that, shall we? Or Frankie
Yeah,
de Jong. But there you go. Make sure you stay. Make sure you do all that, and we'll see you tomorrow. We'll see you at the next one. I don't know when that will be, but I'll make sure I'll try and get it done as soon as possible. But until then, take care. Bye bye.